the Indian judge. Not because I'm an Indian, because of the points that he put forward. The guy just acquitted everyone. I'm like, why? How? I mean, there were crimes, You can see it. There are crimes. Japanese people, they put a notion. First notion was like, who are you to judge? Basically, the people who are sitting in the judging panel, like France, USA, all these countries had a colony in Asia. Is UK in a position to judge Japanese people on pretty much the same kind of atrocities which were committed? Like, dude, you did the same thing. Who are you to judge me?
Hello guys, and welcome to a new episode of Certified Overthinkers. In this episode, we will talk about Tokyotrial. Now, I still have Vishnu as a guest. Vishnu.
Yep.
New episode.
Yep.
So happy to have you on this episode as well. Now, in the previous episode, we were discussing about India-Pakistan. We talked about justice, whether it was served or not. And this brings up the topic of Tokyotrial. For the audience, could you please share what is Tokyotrial?
So, in short, it is about what we do after we've win a war. So, in World War II, first Germans surrendered, then Japan surrendered. But once they surrendered, what do you do? Especially in Germany, it was a big thing because there was a lot of atrocities which were done. There were a lot of crimes against humanity which was done in the name of Holocaust. So, you cannot just leave the people who did it just like that. Also, you cannot just take a revenge and just kill them all, because if you kill them all, then what difference does it make between you and them? And same goes with, if you just leave them just like that, forgive them, then what is the point of waging a war if you're just going to forgive them? That is the key starting point of an international justice system, or an international tribunal. It started with Germany, but I love Tokyotrial more than Nuremberg trial. Nuremberg is for the higher officials in Nazi Germany, but I like the Tokyotrial more because there were a lot of interesting things happened. Unlike in Germany, where they had exact records of what happened. Like they kept records, but in Germany, they don't have much of records. So there was a proper tribunal set with the juries and prosecution, and there were a set of crimes that were listed, and then they tried to bring justice by trialing those people who are behind the crime or the war. So in short, it's just let's call it a courtroom scene. That's it, in short. But in long, that is like the seed for the international tribunal. That's a key starting point.
Right. So this is like an international court of justice.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. That's the first step.
That's the first step.
Yes.
Okay. And in this one, when you bring up the topic of international court, what were there a lot of countries which were participating?
Yeah. So that was actually first controversy is that.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Because let's say, hypothetically speaking.
Okay.
We are living in Poland, where I think it's illegal to smoke weed, I guess. Okay. I'm not sure. But in Netherlands, I think you can.
Yes.
Okay. Let's say you go to Netherlands and you smoke weed, and you come back to Poland. Can Polish authorities arrest you for smoking weed in Netherlands?
No.
Why not?
Because every country has their own laws.
Exactly. So something is illegal in one country and that is not illegal in another country.
Right.
Now think about, you are like the foot soldier in Imperial Japan. Like you are basically just following the orders that you were given, because that is the law. You, as a soldier, you are supposed to follow the law, follow the command from the your higher authorities. So, but the higher authorities' command was to kill innocent civilians, and the soldier did it, right? Because he is a soldier. That is what he is supposed to do.
Okay.
Now, the guy didn't do anything wrong. According to Japanese law, he didn't do anything wrong because he did it right. But Japan lost the war, and let's say US took over the country. But according to US, it is illegal. But how can you prosecute someone for something that he did when that was illegal? But now it's illegal because US took it.
Okay.
This is the biggest question that arises. So who's going to judge it? Now, this bigger question that you asked: who's going to be the judge? Who's going to decide what is right and wrong? Now, even though it's controversial, probably that's the only option that they are left with. They chose all the countries that was in the winning team. In other words, okay. So I think there are like 9 countries, like India, Burma, Myanmar nowadays, Philippines, Canada, France, Soviet Union as together, and US. So these people, every country had their own representative as a judge, and they judged the crimes on Japan or the Japanese leaders. So why Tokyo trial is important is Tokyo trial tried the big leaders of the imperial Japan. So that is why that always gets the highlight. But there are also other small trials that were happening. But it's mainly, I think, 9 countries comprised of 13 judges were there. So that's why it's the international, like multinational.
Right, right. Okay. You did mention that India also participated in this one. So what was the key role of India?
So India had faced Japanese attack in its eastern part. So India was part of UK at the time. So I mean, as British Raj.
British Raj.
Imperial Japan did attack the eastern front of India. So we did have to engage into a armed conflict with Japan. So for that reason, India turned out as part of UK's victory. India also turned out in the victorious side. So since they also faced some atrocities from Japan, they had to. They were also part of this justice system. There was this one Indian judge, Justice Paul. Yeah, I think he's from Bengal region, I guess. I'm not 100% sure, need to check. But he was part of this tribunal.
This tribunal, so in this one, was it discussed like the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and how was this taken into the consideration?
Okay, of course, it was also part of the discussion. It was also important points that Japanese brought it up.
Yeah.
But before that, I just want to touch base on what were the crimes that were accused, because I left the topic. Yes. Because as a soldier, he didn't actually commit any crime according to the laws that were at that time under Imperial Japan. So what were the actual crimes that they are prosecuting? So this is where they brought up these 3 crimes. It's like crime against humanity, war crimes, and crime against peace. So this is not a matter of smoking weed anymore. It doesn't matter where you live. If you do a crime against humanity, that's crime regardless. It doesn't matter what country, what kind of laws you have. So don't do crime against humanity. That's like an international laws, international understanding. As a human, you shouldn't do that. So they brought this up. Now the second problem that a trial always have is the trial prosecutes and they defend. So you, as a prosecuting committee, they have to bring up with the crimes and they need to prove it. It's not like the Japanese arrested, the accused have to prove their innocence. They don't have to prove their innocence. The prosecution team have to prove their crimes. But there is no proof here, because unlike what happened in Germany, where they had proper records, they have like even if you go to Auschwitz, you can see the records that they maintained. In Japan, there is no records, or whatever the records were there were just burned or destroyed before the surrender. So what they did is they came up with a kind of a pseudo idea of, were you in a position to stop this kind of crime?
Interesting.
So let's say that you are like some kind of a big commando or some kind of a leader or a minister. Were you in a position with the power to stop that? And did you stop that? So that's the simple question. If they did, then they're fine. They actually stopped the crime from happening. But if they fail to act, if they fail to stop such heinous crimes, then they assume that they are guilty of those crimes and they prosecuted that.
So this is based on their own judgment.
Unfortunately, yeah, in the end of the day, yes.
Right.
Yes, because there is no
So
exact proof that
yeah.
you passed the command.
Yeah, so because it doesn't matter where this command is coming from,
Yes.
it's your own judgment whether you find it heinous or not, and
Yes.
you commit it or not.
Yes, exactly. So even if your higher authorities said so, if you are in a position with power to stop it, did you act upon it to stop it? And yeah, that is how things were charged. And there are a lot of people who got a guilty verdict, with 7 of them were hanged to death. But this is how they were judged.
Right. And among the jury,
Mm-hmm.
everybody was in favor of the verdict, or what I'm trying to say, was
Yeah.
there controversies as well,
There's always a controversy.
or conflict?
Yeah, there is always a controversy. So the jury panel was set up in a way that a simple majority will give you a vote. I think there were 13 people, 13 judges,
Yes.
subject to correction. But as long as someone have more than 50% of the vote, let's say for guilty verdict, then they are guilty. Even if all the other judges said not guilty, it's the majority wins. The most interesting one is the Indian judge. Not because I'm an Indian, because of the points that he put forward. He acquitted everyone. He found everyone not guilty. That was, I'm like, why would you do that? Just reading in the, let's say Wikipedia,
Yeah.
just the first line.
Yeah.
The guy just acquitted everyone. I'm like, why? How? I mean, there were crimes, You can see it. There are crimes. There must be at least one person who was guilty among everyone. How can you... I'm not asking you to just find them guilty and just kill them, but dude, he just acquitted everyone. Like, how could you do that? Researching more, that is when I find the controversies. And I love that guy for that.
Okay.
So what happens is, Japanese people, they put a notion. First notion was like, who are you to judge? So in simple words, who are you to judge? Basically, the people who are sitting in the judging panel, like France, USA, all these countries had a colony in Asia. Among us.
Right.
We are a colony, right? At the time. UK, we were part of UK. And when UK colonized India, it was not with like peace and like non-violence. There were violence, there were brutality, there were slavery. So is UK in a position to judge Japanese people on pretty much the same kind of atrocities which were committed? Like, dude, you did the same thing. Who are you to judge me?
Yes.
In simple words, that's the notion that Japanese brought up. I think as an Indian judge, he understood that point. I don't think he acquitted them from a position that they didn't do anything. Probably he acquitted them because he didn't exactly explain why he acquitted them. He explained, it's kind of, he have some other opinions during trial. So we kind of come to a conclusion that he acquitted them not because they didn't do anything. It's more because we are not the right person to judge them, because we did the same thing. As India, we face the same thing, but we are not putting UK in trial now.
Yeah, so everybody is in the same bucket, but you're judging someone just because they committed it, and you wanna
just because they lost
because they lost it.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Right.
If Japanese would be on the victorious side, probably UK would be on the accused list, and Japan would be conducting the trial. So there is not a lot of difference between Japan and USA at the time. So I think that was the primary controversy. But also, what followed was USA's involvement in pushing Japan to engage into war. Because why did Japan actually engage into war? Because US kind of pushed the trade. And Japan, it's a small island, it doesn't have a lot of natural resources. So they don't have much of choice other than just colonizing other parts of Asia. So either Japan has to just accept US's demand and surrender with the trade, which means the Imperial Japan is doomed, or try to colonize Asia, or just go on war against USA, where there is a possibility of Japan surviving instead of just surrendering out. So they're kind of cornered. It doesn't justify the atrocities they committed, But still, that is a point from their side. They were cornered. So that's why they engaged into war. That's why the atrocities were committed. So it's like a kind of domino effect. So thinking all this, Japan tried to put forward this notion that yes, we did it, but we were pushed, we were cornered. And I think Justice Paul understood that, and he saw it from a perspective of a colonized country, where Bengal famine and everything, that's the exact time of Bengal famine happened. So from a colonized country perspective, he thinks Japan was pretty much in the same boat.
Okay. Very curious question I have on this one. So, was there any country who was behind all this Tokyo trial because they wanted to push the agenda on this one because they wanted something out of this?
Well, yeah, our big brother US. So one of the other controversy was if a country is being put on trial, yeah, prime minister, president, you can put them on, but Japan was under a kingdom. There was a king.
Yeah, okay.
There was emperor, sorry. The emperor. But the emperor was not put on trial.
Really?
Yes. Emperor was not put on trial.
Okay.
It was everybody else in the government except the emperor. There are only two possibilities. Either those ministers acted against the emperor's wish, which is not happening in Japan because they considered emperor as the god, or emperor knows what was going on. He could have stopped and he didn't stop, or he commanded to do those things.
Right.
But what US did is they didn't put emperor into trial, because if you put emperor into trial, that would create unrest in country, because how people see it when their own emperor,
Right.
whom they consider as god, would kind of change the perspective how welcoming they would be to US. So US want to continue their dominance over Japan, which means they don't want any kind of unrest, and that meant that they didn't try the emperor. So that is why it was super controversial. Like US tried to push this agenda, and even the ministers who were acquitted. Yeah, but there was one big guy above all of these people. It is like, in other words, it's like saying everyone were tried in Germany, but we just left Hitler away.
This is very interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. And so who were the people who were under the trial during this time? Was it just military people?
No, it was not just military people. Mainly, it was not, actually in Tokyo trial. It was not mainly military people. Yeah, there were some military
Okay.
people as well, but it's also ministers.
Right.
Because they were actually behind the war. It's not, even though the ministers never actually engaged into those killings and bloodshed, they were behind all this. So it was mainly the ministers who were put on trial. There was this one guy, I forgot his name. Apart from this emperor, he's the second guy who got the immunity. So this guy
Okay.
did human experimentations. So I hope I hope it is a lie. I didn't read about this. I hope it is a lie. So one of the experiment is, okay. Do you know how much water content your body has?
70%.
How do you know that?
I
mean, you read it somewhere, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, you
Yes,
read it
we
somewhere.
are taught.
Yeah, we were taught.
Science.
It's true.
Science, yeah.
Yeah. So what happened is he put a human. He weighed the human. I hope it's a lie. Okay, I didn't read about this because I don't want my peace gone. So he weighed the human. Let's say he weighed 100 kilograms, and he put it in a place to remove all the hydration from that room.
Okay.
So basically, you just kill the human slowly by dehydrating them. When I say dehydrating, not just giving water, putting it in a room to evaporate yourself in a high temperature. Okay? Until there is no water molecules left in your body. Then he weighed the person again. And that person weighed 30 kilograms. And that is how you know you're made up of 70%.
And this
This person.
You think this was done? This was a human experimentation, which was actually done?
There were worse experiment. I didn't read about it because I don't want to read about it. it would kill my peace of mind. But there were worse experiments.
So
than
if
this.
I'm understanding this correct,
Yes.
so you have a normal human being
Yes.
right now.
Yes.
All the water content
Just plucked out.
sucked out
Yes.
from you, right? And there is zero liquid. Everything sucked out.
Yes. You're not alive anymore. At one point you will die, okay?
Yeah.
But yeah, everything was sucked out. That is, it's not about liquid alone. Even your skin has water molecules in there.
Yeah.
So that is
all
also,
the hydration is gone.
you know, the best example is, have you seen the sun-dried fish?
Yes.
The difference between a live fish and a sun-dried fish,
Okay.
that is what was done to a human.
This is
Alive.
crazy.
And that guy was not put on trial. He got an immunity.
But as you said,
Yes.
there was no concrete information anybody had. Like, for example, you mentioned
Oh,
Germany,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So there could be some degree of truth to this.
No, so this is the interesting part. These are experiments. So military actions, there were no concrete proof, there were no documents, records. But in terms of experiments, human experiments, the whole point of experiment is get some outcome. Those outcome were there. And what US did is they gave immunity to the scientist in exchange for those results. So how you know you got 70% of water in your body? In exchange for the immunity that we gave to the scientist. So it is a bit disappointing to know this.
This is crazy.
I think the scientist lived for next 30 years, I believe, after the World War happened, at least 20, 30 years. So yeah, he got the immunity in exchange for the findings that he got from his experiments and
Man,
research.
this is crazy.
I know.
I know I'm laughing, but this is, I'm just shocked.
Yes. I actually didn't read further because it's all gruesome. There are images, pictures about all this online, but I'm kind of weak-hearted person, you know. I don't
Yeah.
have a stomach to see this and have a good sleep.
Even I can't.
Yes.
Even I can't.
So at one point I just stopped reading and
Yeah.
stopped researching about it. But what I said is like, let's say, tip of iceberg. There were worse experiments which happened.
And this guy was saved.
This guy was given immunity.
So how many people were convicted in this case?
There were 7 people who were put on death. So after I think 1945, August 15, they surrendered. So by the way, that's why India got independence on August 15. So 1945, August 15, Japan surrendered. 1946 April, the trial started. I think it lasted for around 200 days or more. Then after 6 weeks, they were hanged to death, 6 people. 3 of them died while the trial was happening. So they just died of natural cause. There were, I think, there were like 6 more guys who got imprisonment of like 10 years, 15 years, but most of them got paroled out after like few years, either for health reasons or some other reasons over time. But did it exactly give justice to everyone? Probably not. As I said, Emperor was saved. The crazy scientist got the immunity. So did we actually serve justice there? Not really. But that was a starting point of the tribunal. So, you know, this was like the first step. Then slowly the international tribunal was set. So nowadays, if something happens,
Right.
hopefully the tribunal will take care.
Right. And how is this trial is taken in Japan?
Well, now they pretty much moved on. So yeah, of course, like, just like any country after war, they pretty much moved on. I don't think many people even read about it. Even I didn't read about it in my school days or something. It's something that I
I wasn't aware about it.
Yeah, so it's not something very huge,
Yeah.
these trials. So it's kind of slowly getting forgotten. But people who are actually interested, they still read about it because this is part of history. Whatever we are, this is what we came through. You know, as a humans, if you want to evolve in a better situation, you need to know what are the mistakes that you did in the past. So this is one of the mistakes. So next time if you find a crazy scientist, don't give him immunity. You know, that's the takeaway that I can give.
Oh, this is crazy.
Yeah.
One last question. According to you, what are the main key learnings from this whole trial, which people or I don't know government can take?
When you're judging someone, first you have to judge yourself. Make sure you're good in your heart. You cannot be making all the crimes and standing on top of the crime and judge someone else. So be good to your heart. It's not about the country or army or something. Before you pass judgment on someone, check yourself. Are you good? Are you a good person? If you're a good person, at least you have a right to judge. But I don't think you will still judge anyone if you're a good person, but you get a right to judge. Then the second thing is just don't experiment on humans to this extreme. It's kind of crazy, and there are even more crazy stuff. But if you face or come across such crazy people, the only thing, if you ever in a power to stop that, that. It doesn't matter, even if you're a very low-end soldier, all you can do is just obey the command. If you think it's against humanity, just disobey the command. That is one thing that you can do, because it probably would reflect in modern world. Let's say tomorrow, I don't know, some crazy AI takes over, kills everyone. As a software engineer in those companies, they would just say like, I just did my job,
Yeah.
That's not how you should be. Your job resulted in such massacre. So if you think your job would result in such massacre, don't do it.
Very clear, loud and clear,
Yes.
I must say. I came with an open mind for this podcast. I did not know anything about Tokyotrial, and now I know quite a few things. So thank you very much, Vishnu, for this one. Pleasure to had you here, and it was such an amazing time. I literally had fun. Yeah. Thank you once again.
Thank you, man.
Guys, thank you very much for watching this podcast. I hope you learned something today. If you did, let us know in the comment section, what did you learn? What were your key takeaways from this podcast? And please don't forget to subscribe and share. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.